Today, we're going to be going over how to breed crested geckos. So whether you're a first-time breeder getting into reptiles or you've been doing this for a long time, there's going to be something to learn from it for everyone. We all learn at our own pace. Sorry about that. At our own pace, and there's going to be something. We all do it a little differently. So let's bounce ideas off each other and learn a little bit on how to breed crested geckos. Hey everyone, my name is Josh. I am with Georgia Cresties. This is Crested Conversations on the Geckoverse podcast channel. Welcome in. How's everyone doing tonight? Good. Let me check a few comments. Welcome in. All right, so today we're going to be talking about breeding crested geckos. Now, when you start breeding crested geckos, if you're just getting into it the first year, what's the best thing to do? If your answer is to breed as much as you possibly can, get 5, 8 pairs going at once, I would say wrong. Some people that works with, but for first time reptile breeders, I would highly suggest that you start with 1 pair and see where you can go from there. Okay, because geckos can surprise you. I had my first year breeder, Athena. I bred her to Hercules for my first year breeding just because I wanted to have more crested geckos. Now, that is perfectly okay if you want more geckos and that's all you want to do. Start out with 1 pair because, like I said, Athena, her first year, she produced 18 babies. Okay, so all of a sudden I went from 6 to, what is it? 6 plus 18, 24 babies, 24 geckos within 1 year. So it can multiply fast. So if you're not ready for that kind of growth, I would definitely start with 1 pair and see where you can go from there, okay? Now, the other thing, it's perfectly fine to want to breed to have more geckos. Like I said, I started out that way. I love crested geckos. I was like, the best way to get more of these little things for free is to just breed them, right? Like I said before, it is not cheaper to breed crested geckos. Just buy a couple more before you jump into breeding them. Jump down that whole rabbit hole, right? Okay, so for people that are more well established in breeding crested geckos, have been doing it a couple years, or you want to start out your breeding, your business breeding, your hobby, whatever, you need to make sure that you know what you want to breed. Obviously, you're going to be breeding crested geckos, but what morphs do you want to work with exactly? What is your end goal for the projects? When I breed crested geckos, I always want to make sure that I have a end goal in sight, that I know what I want to produce and how to make the crested gecko better. Not just that one, but the species better as in itself. I think that if you need to improve structure on your geckos as well as pattern, health, all of that. Now, for structure, let me go over that real quick. I'm going to get out a lily white that I produced 2 years ago. Her name is Peaches. I had her out on a previous episode, okay? Peaches here is a lavender extreme harlequin lily white crested gecko, okay? So here is Peaches. Woo. There's a little face. There it is. All right. So I got Peaches out because she is an example of amazing structure. I have a lot of animals. Obviously, if I'm going to say I love having animals with good structure, I love having geckos with good structure. She is a perfect example of it. So if you can see here, the dorsal, sorry, the neck right here, the dorsal, you want to see how wide that is? You want it as wide up there as it is all the way down. There it is. So that huge dorsal, the same thickness all the way down is what you're really wanting to see. And then also, as you can see here, she will participate, is how big this head is, okay? You want to have a head that you can do 2 triangles on, okay? One from the top, whoop, and then one from the bottom. She doesn't want to, there we go. No, hold on. What did she do with me? What did you do? Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Let me get her out. See, I told you, they be messing stuff up when you don't plan for them to. But anyways, so I'll make sure she doesn't jump and mess that up again. Hold on. Let me get back over here. Perfect. Okay, so we have the large head, and then the nose right here. You want that to be very short. You don't want it to be long. You want it to be a little rounded over like this, not flat. So yeah, that is what you want to look for in structure in a crested gecko when you want to breed. And you can see here that she's going to pee now. Of course, you can see that she's going to pee. Give me 1 second. She's like, oh, she shit on me. So I'll teach you to get me out of my tank when I don't want to be. No. Okay, give me one momento. This was not planned. I did not want to get pooped on. I have never actually had her poop on me before. So that is perfect. She's like, I told you I did not want to be out. Okay. Apologize for the delay. I'm sure you wouldn't want to have poop on your hands either. Let me get her out. Okay, you're about to be done, okay? Just 15 seconds. Okay, so the reason why I am breeding her is because obviously of her structure, and then also all of this pattern that she has here on her sides. I love that, the extreme harlequin patterning, and she is lavender, so she can produce reds as well. So I'm really stoked to get some lavender or red babies from her, but they should all be extreme harlequins because she's going with Helios. But we will get more into that on the next episode when I go over breeding schedules. All right, so let me get this little pooper back in her tank so she doesn't do it again. Hello, hello. How are we doing tonight? Welcome in. If you just missed it, I was showing off Peaches here. How are we doing tonight? She is a extreme harlequin, lily white crested gecko. I'll go ahead and put her up. Okay. So you always want to make sure you have good structure, good patterning. You always want to make sure that you're breeding the correct morphs together. If you're really wanting to sell geckos, you usually pair the same morphs together. So Super Dalmatian with Dalmatian, Super Dals, Lily White, not with Lily White, that is fatal. Do not do that. But you're generally trying to enhance the qualities and features and pattern of the geckos that you have. So what do you do when you want to breed? The first thing is get quality geckos, like I just talked about. Making sure that you have good quality to produce good and even greater quality geckos is something that you always want to work towards. Again, morph pattern and structure and crests. As you saw all the way down the head, you want very mini crest going all the way down by the ears, all the way down the dorsal. If they have all the crests, very good structure, all pointy, very nice. And then the head as well, as I said, how it was wide, two triangles, one on top, one on bottom. You want the crest to flop over the ears as well. So the floppier the better. When you have huge floppy crests that come off like way over here on the gecko, that means they call that a king or a crowned crested gecko because the head is so big. So you got your good quality geckos, you got the right morphs to pair together and create better geckos, better versions of those geckos. What do you do now? How do you know when to breed your gecko? So you want to make sure your gecko is at least a year and a half old. Crested geckos go through sexual maturity at a year and a half, and to breed them, they need to be at least 45 grams. I like to have all of my females a little bit bigger than 45 grams so that when they're going through breeding season laying eggs that they have enough weight there to lose some and so that they're not getting too skinny or anything. Again, all geckos are different. If they're right at the year and a half, 2 year mark, I would suggest at least 45 grams, but I have had males that are generally smaller. Kind of just like people, you have bigger ones and smaller ones. You have some males that'll sit at like 36 to I would say I've had them. I've heard 36. I've had them at 38 to 42, and that's them full grown. They were 5 years old, whatever. They've always been that size, no matter what. They haven't grown any larger than that, and that's perfectly fine as long as you know that they're an adult and not going to um, grow more, like that's their final stage, I would go ahead and breed them if they're established adult. I would not suggest much lower than 38 though, just for the male's health. The males do end up losing a few grams as well. Not sure how, but they do. So yeah, all geckos are different. At least a year and a half old. I like to wait till 2 years old, just because they can start laying eggs and producing babies doesn't mean they should start laying eggs and producing babies. So I'm always, like I said, I'm always after the health of the geckos and looking out for the best of them or for them. Um, Breeding time of year. Typically, people breed crested geckos in the spring. The earlier you start, the earlier you get more babies. A lot of people love to pair at the very beginning of the year, and because they're wanting more babies. But what I have found when you breed towards the beginning of the spring and March, April, that you get more males when you breed them that way. Um, and then when you breed later in the season, around what May, June, July area, you get more females that I've seen. When I've paired my crested geckos later in the season, the not all of them, okay, but the majority of them end up being female. And when I pair earlier in the season, I get majority males. That's not proven or anything. That's just something I've seen. So if you're watching this, there's a little tip out there for you. It's not proven, but if you're looking for more male crested geckos, pair earlier and see what you get. Let me know how it works out for you. If you're pairing later in the season and you get more females, let me know how that goes for you. Just a little tip out there, something I've noticed so far, and thought it'd be interesting to share. So if you have a little bit more patience and want more female crested geckos, I would try pairing later in the season. So we have the right geckos. For a lot of breeders, it's important to get lineage on geckos. Lineage means that you're getting the parents and the grandparents information if they have it, and the breeder that they got it from. You can also get the hatch date if they would like. I like to get the hatch date, know when they were born. Um, Lineage is not the end all be all for me. I love to have it so I know where they're coming from. But if I know the breeder that they're coming from and they just don't happen to have lineage, it's okay as long as it's a good enough gecko for me. Like if it's a very high quality gecko, yeah, I'm all in for it. It's not Lineage isn't as important, but if it's on the lower end of geckos, on the lower side, I would have to have lineage for it just because I want to know what they look like and what the potential of them to the babies are going to look like as well. So lineage is a good way of tracking how old your gecko is, where they come from, and who their parents are, possibly grandparents as well. A lot of people don't have much lineage going back farther or a lot farther back because, again, like I said, they are within 30 years of being reestablished into the hobby. So you have all of that. You have all of your basics. You have the male, female, at least 1.5, probably 2 years old, each at 45 grams. And it's time for you to breed them in the spring. What do you need to do? Okay, so what I do is I get my male and I get my female, and I introduce them to each other. I let them see them or see each other. Okay, like a little first date. Like, hello, this is you. This is you. And then I don't make them kiss or anything. I just that'd be weird. But I hold them so they know of each other, and I get one of the tubs like I had peaches in here, and I put them both in there. I put a paper towel down. I wet it or I mist it. It's not going to be soaking wet. Just mist the sides to where the towel is a little damp, and there's a little bit of water on the sides. And I will put the male and female into the tank or into the tub together. Okay. Generally, the males and females will breed fairly quickly, depending on if it's a new male or if it's a established proven breeder. Proven breeders are a lot easier to breed because you know that they can get the job done, that they've done it before. First year males, virgin males, I have seen that they have a lot. It's a lot more likely, not a lot more likely. There's a higher possibility of them prolapsing than a well-established male that's done it before and knows how to put the hemipene away. So if you want to make sure, if you don't, to me, that's kind of the most stressful part is the male putting the hemipene back in. But if you want to negate the chances of that happening, or the possibility of that happening, I would get a proven male to start out your breeding projects, just so you have a little bit more comfort and know that he is able to get the job done. So you introduce them, put them in the or the tub together, and you're gonna watch them. I usually watch them for like an hour or two, and just to make sure that the male isn't overly aggressive, or the female isn't overly aggressive, or the female is not receptive to the male. If that happens, I am going to separate the geckos, and I will try again in probably 2 weeks or so. Um, so if you're, so I'll try again in 2 weeks or so. But for the most part, I have pretty calm geckos. I haven't had any of them be too aggressive. Now it is breeding and there are animals, so that it is going to look a little rough. There is going to be biting and stuff. But I'm talking about if you see like any cuts, bruises, anything like that, any bleeding, like obviously separate them. Um, you don't want any too much like scratches, anything like that. You don't want the crested geckos to get hurt. You just want to make sure that they breed to produce eggs. So you put them together. Generally, I get a lock, like I said, between 1 and 2 hours. If I don't see a lock, a trick to do is take the male and female out, and you will take the male's nose and put it at the female's vent. Okay, that is where they breed at, pee, poop, reproduce, all of that stuff. I usually hold the male's nose there for probably 10-15 seconds just so he gets a smell, and then I will put them back in the container and see if they breed. If they do breed, fantastic. I will then separate the male and female. Typically, when they lock up, you want to make sure you see. When you look under, you will see one hemipene come out. Crested geckos do have two hemipenes. So when breeding, they only shoot one of them out, and then they have to retract that back in after. But when they are breeding, they typically, depending on the male, of course, they'll typically stay locked for anywhere from like 2 minutes up to, I've had it been like 10 minutes before, and they pretty much just frozen solid or frozen still, standing there. And then when the male's done, he'll shake like his head violently back and forth. And generally, when they're breeding, he will bite the crests right here on the side of the female, and so he's kind of like holding her. And so when he shakes his head, he's shaking her head too, and it looks a little violent. But then he lets go, and then his hemipene comes out, and he walks away a little bit. And so from there, I take the male and I put him in a different container, still about like this size here that you see at the reptile shows and stuff. I will put him in there, put him in another paper towel, and mist it well. And I will take the female and put her back into her tank. Now, like I said, what you can do for a male to make him comfortable and make him retract his hemipene faster and safely is mist the tub well, okay? Put a paper towel down, mist it well, okay? You don't want it standing water or anything, but just mist it well. Put the male in there and put him in a dark place, either if it's in the same room that you're in and you're about to like leave, whatever. Put him in the closet, put him in a dark place for him to chill so he can calm down, not be stimulated by you walking around the room or anything. And so he has time to focus on licking and getting the hemipene back in. I typically check every 10 to 15 minutes. I've had males put it back within that 10 minutes, and then I've had males put it back within 2-3 hours. It just depends on the male. Now, if it's been several hours, I would say 2 to 4 hours, and the male hasn't put his hemipene back in, I would get a Q-tip and some honey, and I would rub it on the hemipene and then mist again. And so usually between the high humidity, getting it to shrink, getting the hemipene to shrink, and the honey on the hemipene for him to lick, it'll be sweet, so it'll entice him to lick the hemipene more to get it, the swelling to go down for him to retract and go back in. If not, if it's been more than like 8 to 12 hours, I would say 12 hours generally. After 12 hours, I would recommend taking to a vet. I've had one male had to go to the vet so far for a prolapse, and the vet wasn't able to get the hemipene to go back in either, unfortunately, so he did have to have it removed. So he does have one hemipene. He can still breed. it's okay to breed him, but you definitely want to be more cautious when you breed males with one hemipene. There is more room in there for it, but again, he only has one left out of the two. They can live peenless, what they say, but uh, hopefully I would never want to get to that point, and I hope I never have to get to that point. Um, yeah, I just hope I don't have to get to that decision. So, anyways, so that is if your geckos breed immediately. If your geckos are first time breeders and they really don't know what's going on, like most of us, when our first time, we don't really know what's going on, but that's okay. I will put the male into the female's container or into their tank. I always do that so that the female is more comfortable. Um, it's all about the female's comfortable. She's going to be laying the, or she's going to be breeding the eggs. She's going, what is it? She's going to be gravid with the eggs for 6 months or so. She's going to be laying that long. They'll lay, I'll get to that in a second. But so she's going to be laying that long. I want her to be comfortable at least while she's being bred. So I always put the male into the female's container. Hello, everyone. How you doing tonight? Anyone doing anything cool? Doing good. But yeah, so I put the male into the female's container, and I will watch them. Again, make sure looking for any signs of over-aggression. Don't want that, so I'll watch them for probably 25-30 minutes, and then I'll leave the lights off, let them do whatever they do. I'll come back in like an hour. I'll do that off and on the first night. In the morning after that, I will check on them again just to make sure no injuries, no broken bones, bleeding, anything like that. That's not very typical for that to happen, but again, I just want to make sure that they're safe. So I am overly cautious and just checking on them a lot just to make sure that there's nothing wrong going on. And so I check them again. If they're cool, I'll typically leave them in there for probably 2 to 3 days. And again, checking when I get back from work at night, I'll check on them again just to make sure no fighting, all of that. And usually within those 3 days, a lot of people leave them in for a week. That's okay too. Cool. Okay too. You're really just looking for a lock. One of my pairs this year, they locked up. Again, it was like the first 4 times he didn't want to lock at all. I had him in the female's tank for a couple days, didn't see a lock. She still hasn't produced any eggs. But I paired with him with another female a month later. I always do a little downtime, okay? Always do downtime for your geckos to make sure that they're all healthy and doing well. And so, yeah, I put him in there. Sorry, where was I? Anyways, so I put them in there and I saw a lock within like 2 hours. I saw a lock. So then after that, I separated them. Typically, after you see them breed, they don't need to be together. I typically only have my crested geckos together when they are breeding. So typically, it could take anywhere from 10 minutes if it's a proven breeder, all the way up to a week if it's an unproven breeder. So you just have to be patient with it, like everything else with the geckos, and it will come to you. Okay? So you have successfully bred your geckos. What now? Well, again, it's patience and a waiting game. Your female crested gecko is going to need the lay box, like I showed you in my previous video. I have plastic tubs that I get from the dollar store, and I get sphagnum moss and fill it up about 3/4 of the way and keep that damp. You don't want it soaking wet. You want it just damp, so where it's comfortable for them to go in and get in there. And they will go in there. They'll typically start digging around what, 3 weeks after they are first bred. They will lay 2 eggs every 30 to 45 days for like 6 to 8 months that I've seen so far. So you will provide that lay box for her, and a couple days before she lays eggs, she will be digging around. You'll see sphagnum moss kicked all over the tank. If you have a bioactive, you don't have to have a lay box. You can is still nice because you want to have a known area where she is going to lay the eggs. If you have just the bioactive, then you're going to be constantly digging in all of the dirt to find the eggs, and sometimes you miss the eggs. And that's okay as long as you catch them right when they hatch, because like I said before, the mothers are not maternal at all. They will try to eat the babies right after hatch. not because they don't recognize them as their babies. So it's just they think they're a little insect, and because they're pretty tiny when they come out, I'll get to that in a second. But so yeah, always try to have a place for a designated area for your female gecko to lay eggs, so that it's easier for you to find them and put them in the incubation box, which we'll go over here in one moment. So you'll get those eggs out from her when she lays them. Like I said, they're not maternal at all. So you just take the eggs from them, and you'll be wanting to put them in a incubator. Okay, let me get out my eggs real quick, and I will show you what I'm working with. Oh, real quick, let me pick you up. This is, let me make sure, right there in the middle is my incubator. It is a humidor for cigars. That is what I use to incubate my eggs in. This is something that I got first this season, or for this season, for my first time using that. So here you can see, let me turn on, has a little light. I keep it at 68 degrees. You're always going to want to breed or incubate crested gecko eggs at 68 degrees, or sorry, 68 to 72 degrees. That is the prime incubation temperature for them. I typically see when you breed at or incubate at a lower temperature, 68 degrees, they're going to incubate longer. So typically they'll incubate 60 to 120 days. If you are incubating at 68 degrees, they are going to incubate between 90 and 120 days. What that means is that you're going to get a stronger, healthier gecko, a heavier gecko as well, and you will get better structure on that gecko. Okay, all of those are very important to me, so I always make sure that I am incubating at 68 degrees, so they are going to be in there for the 90 to 120 days, so that they're bigger and have better structure. I keep saying this: structure, structure, structure. Why is it so important? Structure is related to health of the crested gecko, and when they have really good structure, that's a good sign that the gecko will have less health problems throughout its entire life. I'm all about wanting them to be happy, so giving them better or producing better structure makes them have better lives, better, healthier lives, and everyone's happy. I'm happy I have healthy geckos. The geckos are happy that they have a place that cares about them and will take care of them. Let me get out my eggs real quick so you can see what crested gecko eggs look like. So when I get out my eggs, I put them in, it's like a little jewelry case, okay? So I have my hygrometers right here. It tells the humidity and the temperature. So I make sure that it's always at the 68 degrees. The hygrometer or the humidor is typically within like 1 degree, usually always at that 68 degrees. So like I said, it's like a little jewelry case. I don't want to tip it too much. But so I have labeled here, if y'all can see, I have labeled each one, who the parents are and the day that it was laid, so that I know how long that they are incubating for. So this little substance that you see in there, it is called Recti Hatch. Okay, that is the incubating medium that you are going to be using. It's little clay rocks. Sorry, I should have just kept. Let me put this down here, and I will grab y'all and show you the eggs. So here is the Repti Hatch. It is basically just little clay rocks that you will spray with water. What I suggest is you'll fill up the tank for however many geckos you think that you will have. There we go. And so I have here, I will need to get more later to fill these up. But so here are crested gecko eggs that just were laid. They were laid 4/24. Okay, and then these ones right here are the oldest ones I have. They should hatch. This is day 102 of them incubating. So they should be hatching anytime between now and then 18 days from now. Hopefully, is a little bit later. So you'll just put the eggs in here, and I label them as well, like you see here. So you know the lineage of who you are tracking. You will just put the eggs in here and close the lid. I apologize. When you put the Repti Hatch in here, you will fill it up with water. There we go, sorry. trying to hold it and do it at the same time. You will fill up all of these with water, let it sit for a few minutes. There we go. Let it sit for a few minutes, and then when you see all the air bubbles and everything, then drain it out completely so there's no standing water in it, that you just have the wet or absorbed clay rocks have the water in it, and that's all the moisture that it needs. You will close up this, and I add holes. I got a soldering iron and I poked all these holes. It was getting a little too wet. You can see there's moisture here. It's not there all the time. So I leave it a little propped open, and I added holes on the top and bottom of each of the little egg crates so that it provides enough ventilation in the humidor so that it's not soaking wet all the time. So something that people say is incubate till no debate. So you can see here these ones that were first laid by Aphrodite. All three of these here are laid by Aphrodite, but so this is the first clutch that she laid. This is the second. You can see how these right here are bright white and very big. Or sorry, not big. Big is because they've been in there longer, but they're bright white. That means they've been calcified properly. And here they're a little bit low. I guess she had a little bit less calcium in her. I gave her more calcium after I saw these. So again, they say incubate till no debate. So I will keep them in here until I start to see them mold or anything like that. But for right now, they are still doing well. How do you tell if a crested gecko egg is fertile? Okay, how do you know if there's a baby in there? Well, when you see this little dude right here, okay, when it first comes up, you will take your phone. Let me get it real quick. Take your phone. Sorry, it's going to be blinding you for a second. And put it on the light, okay? It's kind of hard to see because it won't focus. The light's going back and forth. But you will see a red Cheerio in the very middle, okay? Sometimes not in the middle. But you will see it looks like a little red circle, a little red Cheerio. These have been incubating for a couple weeks, so it's more filled out. But you can see it's over here. You'll see a lot of veins in the egg, and a little red Cheerio. That's how you know it is fertile. So when you see that, you know that you're going to have fertile eggs. I typically will let it breathe like this probably once every couple weeks. There we go. I'll let it breathe like this once every couple weeks just so that getting the moisture out of there and making sure they're not over moistured, over wet. Don't want that. So yeah, typically or sometimes when you see these eggs come or hatch, you will not see the Cheerio right away. You will it'll just look empty, but it could still form. I've seen them form the little Cheerios, showing that they have been fertilized and are viable eggs. Welcome back. Hello. Typically, you can see that up to like a week after they've been laid, or you'll see that like develop. So let me put this back in the incubator real quick. Does anyone have questions about how to incubate crested geckos or any questions on breeding so far? Let me know. Alrighty. So we have them incubating. You're going to have them there 90 to 120 days. Yeah. So, after 90 to 120 days, when your crested geckos are hatching, what are you going to do? So, crested geckos are not like snakes. When the egg is cut, or pipped as they call it, the gecko needs to come out relatively quickly. If it stays in the egg, it will drown. Now, like with snakes you can cut the egg and then they can stay there a few days in the egg until they're ready to come out. Crested geckos aren't that way. So it's important to make sure that when it is around the time for them to be hatching, that you are checking the eggs every day or so. When it's around that, again, that window that when you've been breeding, it's going to be between these few days when you have down your temperatures and everything. So when you see that, A couple signs right before they hatch is the egg will start sweating. It'll look like condensation on around the egg, and it'll be really, really swollen up, like the two that you saw in the corner. The largest ones, they'll be even a little bit bigger than that, and they'll have a little condensation on it. So, when the crested gecko pips the egg, they have a egg tooth right under their lip here that comes out a little bit. Or sorry, no, down like this. It goes down. It's literally like a little triangle with a little tooth that comes off the lip, not from their mouth. It comes off like the top lip, and they use it to slice open the egg. And after a couple days, the egg tooth is absorbed, and so they don't keep that. It's just so that they can get out of the egg. So typically, crested geckos will get out on their own. It's also good for kind of like survival of the fittest, for them to get out on their own. Now, if I see a gecko hatching, I'm going to assist it as best I can. Okay, I'm not just going to let it sit there. How do you assist a crested gecko baby that comes out 2 grams? Okay, little 3-inch thing, 3 grams. Q-tips. Okay, I get Q-tips, and I am very gently caressing the egg. I usually hold one end of the egg with one Q-tip, and on the opposite side of the egg, typically like where its butt would be, because it slit the egg on one end, I'm going to hold it there. And on the other end, I'm going to very lightly um, push, not push, but push down on the egg and kind of rub it back and forth, just so that they feel a little bit pressure and they're more eager or incentivized to get out of the egg. And so I push a little bit, and then I try, if they come out a little bit more, I try to open the slit a little bit, not much, just not really opening, but separating it apart with the two Q-tips. Again, it's not cutting it, anything like that. I don't want to injure the baby gecko. I'm not using a knife. It's just Q-tips. So I open it a little bit, and then I go back to rubbing it with a Q-tip, rubbing the egg with a Q-tip, and it will typically pop right out after that. And you have a little baby gecko. They're little 2-3 inches. I typically, when you are incubating at a warmer temperature, like around 72 degrees, so they hatch out at right around 60 to 90 days, they're going to be a little bit lighter, like 1.5 to like 1.8 grams. When you incubate at 68 degrees and incubating for 90 to 120 days, then you're going to get them more around 1.9 to 2.2. I've had one hatch out of like 2.3 grams. Those are very big. Um, yeah, that's what comes out, and then they know how to gecko immediately. They can start climbing up walls, licking their eyes, doing all that. It's really cool to see them like hatch, especially like your first gecko hatching. You're like, oh my god, like you're here because of me, what I did. Like, it's really like cool feeling to do that and see that. And you will put them in their bin. I keep them in the 6-quart tubs that you see here. I showed them off in several videos. Little 6-quart tub here that I got from Walmart, and I'll do a little show off. Yesterday was feeding day, and they're a little messy, so there's a little bit of food at the front. Don't come after me for that, okay? I clean them once a week. But so you see here, you have just a little pool noodle, leaves, a little pool noodle underneath, a little half bridge, water, and a little, where's that? Water and egg crate is all they need. Of course, ventilation as well. You have the vent here, and then ventilation holes around it so that the gecko has air. It's always good when you have air, right? Right. Okay, so it will stay in that from hatch to 15 grams. Now, your crested gecko will shed within the first 12 hours of hatching. That is going to be their food for them. That'll be enough for them. Their shed has a lot of calcium in it, and it is good for them. So most of the time, you will not see them shedding. I catch them every once in a while just because I have so many. I'm bound to see them every once in a while shed. They will eat it typically, so you may see pieces around, but typically they're going to be shedding in the middle of the night, so you're not even really going to see it. But every time they shed, typically, like I said, 12 hours is the first one. I still provide a little food cup just in case they want any. I know they're not going to touch it, but just in case, I provide the little Pangea growth and breeding is what I feed all of them to get them established on that. I give them that, and then after that, it's every like couple days, like 2 to 4 days, they'll shed, and then as they get bigger, the shedding is going to get slower. So typically, as adults, they'll shed like every month, around every month, not exactly, but around once a month that they will shed, getting meaning that they're getting bigger. Again, as an adult, they're not going to keep getting bigger, 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 but they need the room to expand. The reptiles need to shed. All of that good stuff. Okay? Does anyone have any questions about what we went over? That is pretty much what I do to breed crested geckos. Does anyone have any insight on how they do it? Any questions on how I breed geckos or what to do to breed geckos? Let's see, give a couple seconds for anyone to type anything they need. Usually same hatch. Yep. So yeah, another thing. So like I said, they come out in clutches of 2. I separate them from birth. Okay? I don't want, there's a possibility that one of them thinks the other's tail, tip of the tail or toe, is a bug, and they could, the one that thinks that could go after it and bite it, and there's been toe losses and there's been tail nips. You see it on geckos every once in a while. I don't want that to happen to them, so I always make sure I always keep them separate. Again, you're going to keep separate males. They will fight each other. No babies or juveniles together. No babies, juveniles, and adults together. Any of that combination. The adults will try to eat the babies or try to like fight, eat the juvenile, not eat the juveniles. They're pretty much the same size at that point. But one gecko per tank, okay? Unless you are breeding them, just they're solitary animals. Keep them alone. They like to be alone. So yeah, keep them apart. Females, people do keep them together every once in a while, but you have to be very cautious with that because you have to make sure one's not territorial, one's not eating all the food of the other one, stuff like that. And since I have a lot of geckos, I'm not gonna take the risk or the chances and the risk of putting some females together just to save some money on a tank or because I think it would be cool. I know in the long run they're not going to be happy with that, so I always keep them separate. Um, Males will overbreed females and cause a calcium crash and could lead to metabolic bone disease. So that is no good either. So you can breed them, keep them together for a month or two. That's fine if you want. I typically don't keep together more than a week. I haven't gone past a week. But if your male needs a month, go ahead, give them a month. But in the long term, keep them separated. Just for the health and betterment of the geckos, keep them separated. So with that is going to be our episode on breeding crested geckos on Crested Conversations. Next time, we're going to be talking about breeding schedule, what I am breeding this year and what I expect to be getting. And maybe we'll even have the newborn babies that are due to hatch between now and 18 days. So hopefully, hey Gage Boy, how are we doing? So hopefully, between now and the next episode, I'll have some brand new baby crested geckos for you. What's up? How you doing, Heron? Javante, how you doing, Javante Heron? Doing well tonight. We're talking about breeding crested geckos. So, yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. Does anyone have any specific crested gecko they want to see? Any type of morph? Or if you want to see my favorite crested gecko, I'll show you that too. But that pretty much wraps it on breeding crested geckos for tonight. I'm going to be showing you, like I said, my breeding schedule, what I plan on producing, and what I am producing. Let me show you this baby real quick. What I produced this season. So this is the first baby out of Heisenberg and Galaxy. Okay, he's a lily white. If you do not know, the hatch rate of lily whites is typically not hatch rate, but typically when you have a clutch of them, most expensive. Okay, I'll get that out in a second. Okay, so this is a baby lily white. It has a ton. Oh, he's gonna try to jump. Okay, give me a second. I will bring the camera to him so he doesn't mess it up like he did last time. So this. Give me a second. He's right at 10 grams. And typically, lily whites get all of their patterning, or develop all of their patterning. Come back up here. I know there's a light. They will develop their patterning between 9 and like 17 grams. So this guy, he has been just crazy. Hold on. Let me do that. So all of that, he has that white on the sides, and then he has that yellow underneath. And so I'm expecting him I say him, you can't tell with crested geckos until like 15 to 20 grams most of the time if they're male or female. So it's a little it, but I just say he, she, it, whatever. He, she, it. But yeah, so that is a little baby crested gecko what I produced. Let me put him back and I will get up the most. So there's probably 2 of them I could show you. Again, price is kind of subjective, and people would have depending on if you're a new breeder or a well-established breeder, if what you're going to be charging for your geckos. I typically try to be pretty fair in my pricing, but let me get out that gecko. So this, I've been showing him off in a couple of my videos. This is going to be Everything Bagel. Where are you? There you are. Mm-hmm. So Everything Bagel is a super Dalmatian. He has pretty much every type of spot that there is for crested geckos. Okay, so he has ink blots. Those are the large spots. He has Dalmatian spots on him. He has a cluster spot on his knee. See, I tell you, they don't like to participate well. So he has red spot. Let me try to do this as well. That worked better before. Okay. So he has red spots as well. It's kind of hard to see in this lighting. Come on. So he has red spots. Sorry, this camera quality is not the best. So he has that ink blot. The oil spot as well. These ones that are very faded, those are called ink blots. Stop. I know this is a light and you don't like it. He has red spots, like I said, and some of those red spots are inside of the big ink spots. So you call that a bullseye. So typically, I've seen geckos like this between $1,500 to like $3,500. So for me, if I was going to sell him right now, like again, he's not for sale. I'd be breeding him next year when I can find a good female. But I would probably say like $2,000 to $3,000 is what, honestly, because I've seen people with a lot less spots and less spot coverage that have been charging around that price. But I like to be pretty fair with my pricing. Again, he's not for sale. He is a very special boy that I will be doing. And then let me get out one more for you, Gage. This guy is going to be someone I did not produce. I bought him from Rockstar Geckos. He was the male. He was a first-time breeder this season. This is Helios, maybe, if I can find him. Where are you? Where are you? He's in his little hide. See, the more hides you have, the happier they will be. Because the less easy you will be able to find them. Well, alright, so this is Tricolor Extreme Harlequin. See, why do you always act up? All of you want to be jumpy when I'm showing you off to people, but as soon as the camera goes off, they want to be the nicest, sweetest little geckos. Like, what's up with that, right? Just run all around and get on that keyboard. Like, dude, calm down, okay? Let me try to do this to where he won't be tripping, okay? Again, beautiful, beautiful structure. Okay, just very big head. There we go. Nice nose, very nice dorsal going all the way down. And then all of this coverage on him. Look at all that patterning. Yeah, he is, I think, right at like 43, 45 grams. Sorry. Let's do it like that. There we go. There we go. So you can see all of that orange that he has on him. And if you look, oh, come on, I scared him. I moved my phone and I made him move. There we go. So this white that comes down from his dorsal right here, that's the white spot or drippy dorsal that you see. It goes all on him. It goes all the way, dude. Come on. It goes all the way from the very top right here for him all the way down. Typically, you don't see that a lot. You see that like start right here, but for him, it goes all the way to like to his eyeball, and it's like really, it's wild to see the drippy go all from there all the way down to his butt. I said like to his butt, but yeah, it's really cool. He's very very nice, and he's probably around like $1,000 gecko as well. Um, but yeah, so it was his first year breeding. I'll have babies from him this year. There we go. So yeah, again, just beautiful, beautiful. All that coverage, all that pattern. I love tricolors. Tricolors having the three colors. So you have the base color, which his is a brown, almost lavenderish, and then you have the orange or yellow and white. You can see here it's really cool. He has like a broken. He has like a heart, and then a broken like symbol going down. I don't know how well y'all can see that. But yeah, it's really cool. He has like a little broken heart going down right there from the pattern. So yeah, this is Helios. I'll go over who I paired him with next episode. So it won't be next Tuesday. It'll be the Tuesday after. I will be back at 9 p.m. for another episode of Crested Conversations. That is not a spot. That is called a head stamp. So typically they'll have little lines or something like that on their head called a head stamp. Nothing wrong. They all look different, but a little personal, like a what do you call it, like a birthmark type thing. So yeah, that is Helios. Thank you all so much for joining me today on this episode of Crested Conversations here on the Geckoverse podcast channel on YouTube. I will talk to y'all next week. If you have any questions, please hit me up in the comment section or on Instagram, George the Cresties, okay? Thank you all so much for joining me here tonight. It's been a pleasure. And as always, keep it cresty, bestie.